my mother didn't have the best support, loving support during pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I was born here in Atlanta. By 1, we moved to Detroit. By 4, I'm dying. Because at this point, you're getting this, everybody dies. And I'm like, how could everybody die when we are the children of God?
Yeah.
And God don't die. I think what really happens is that people say everything happens for a reason. I'm saying everything happens by law.
Okay.
So the reason is law.
Okay.
We don't necessarily know how we are participating with it by virtue of our thoughts, by virtue of what we've said. But I am of the thought and knowing that when you have violation charged upon your blood, from the rot of pigs and cows and turkeys and chicken and alcohol and tobacco and sugar and all of this stuff, that is and are the tools of our oppression.
Peace and blessings. Welcome back again, where we talk all things health and healing. And today will be no different on the Heal My People TV show. Today I have a very special guest with me. It's funny, right before we came on here, she asked me, how did I discover her? And I was explaining to her the way I went about finding her, but I think a lot of things are like divinely led. Sometimes you find people that you're looking for and you don't know that you're looking for them. And sometimes people are looking for you and they don't know that they're looking for you. And I think this special guest today is one of those people. She is the founder of Mother Earth's Blessing Holistic Life Center. She's committed her life to helping others heal wholly. Okay. She's also the host of the Meeting of the Inner Circle 89.3 FM in Atlanta. And what attracted me to your content is that at the beginning, because I was learning about a different aspect of spirituality, and I was learning about my childhood at the moment. It was right when I was writing this book, Life is My Guru. And your energy is what attracted me to your content. It wasn't necessarily what you were saying.
Okay.
And so maybe that, me being in that phase of my life where I was exploring childhood traumas, your motherly energy attracted me.
Okay.
And with that being said, I want to introduce you to Adama Alaji today. She's here with me. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited because this is the first time that I got a radio personality to come in here, and you definitely had the radio personality voice.
Well, I've been doing radio 24 years.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, we were out at the studio, so I produced a lot at the center.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I just start replaying. I said, I got so much content, I really don't have to produce anything else because it's all current.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the beautiful thing, and we're going to talk about your journey in just a second, but the cyclic nature of life is like where you probably began at your journey is probably where we need to be right now today. And we're going to talk again about that a little bit. But I think what's really important is let's get the people to know you a little bit. And let's start from the beginning, because I was watching some videos of you online and I heard you speak to the fact that you had a very difficult childhood growing up because of some health ailments that you struggle with. And I would love for you to kind of share, like, growing up and experiencing those.
Well, my parents, for whatever reason, were trying not to conceive.
Okay.
Now, when you're not trying to conceive, you don't do the things to make you conceive, right?
Right.
Of course, that's too much like right.
Right.
And so the first 2 pregnancies were terminated.
Okay.
So I was the 3rd conceived on spermicide.
Okay.
All right. So my mother made the appointment for the abortion. This is here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So there was a doctor, European doctor. At that time, abortions were illegal.
Okay.
So my scheduled termination was for Monday morning, 8 o'clock.
Gotcha.
He was arrested Sunday night at midnight.
Wow.
8 hours prior to.
So you literally are the Immaculate Conception.
And so my father should have honored my mother. This is what we don't get
Yeah.
in terms of where divisiveness is actually starting.
Yeah.
So my mother didn't have the best support, loving support during pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I was born here in Atlanta. By 1, we moved to Detroit. By 4, I'm dying.
Wow.
And my mother was taking me back and forth to the hospitals, and the Jews were very operative in those arenas. And they kept telling her, we don't find anything wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with her. We don't find anything wrong with her. And my mother was like, I know there's something wrong with my child.
Yeah.
And so we would go places, and I would just sit down. Be shopping, I'd sit down. And she would get so annoyed with me. I don't shop to this day.
Yeah.
Because it was just so tiring, right?
Right.
And so we just happened to move next door to a sister by the name of Dr. Lulabelle Stewart
Okay.
on Dexter Avenue in Detroit.
Okay.
And Dr. Stewart put me on her table, heard the murmur, and then they did exploratory surgery. Cut me here, took cameras up, found a hole between the lower chambers of my heart and 3 veins that needed to be redirected. I had to have 40 pints of blood transfusion at 4, right? The Children's Hospital. The sister who cleaned the offices at the welfare department where my mother worked organized my blood drive.
Wow.
After the 40 pints of blood, now why would a 4-year-old need 40 pints of blood?
Right.
Because the blood is toxic. Why is that? Hamburgers, meat, dairy, eggs, chicken, fish, all of the things that we were socialized to think is good eating for us, right? So it's making me sick. And so the issue then after the 40 pints of blood transfusion and then the major open heart surgery after a few months on a pediatric form of Ensure to kind of boost me up a little bit because I was underweight.
Okay.
So when they did the major surgery, the hospital floor catches fire, has to be evacuated. And so I am pronounced pretty much dead in the sense they say, we're sorry, we've lost her, there's nothing we can do. Her brain has been starved of oxygen for more than 20 minutes. We'll put her in an oxygen tent. If she survives it, she will be a human vegetable.
Mm.
All right, so in an oxygen tent, and I remember seeing myself in that oxygen tent.
Mm.
My mother could see me 5 minutes of every hour, but my mother would not leave me. My father was like, come home. There's nothing that we can do.
Right.
There's nothing that they can do.
Mm.
But in the meantime, my Uncle Richard's church, my grandmother, Unity School of Christianity prayer lines were open. But my mother at this time had not made commitments for me.
Mm.
At this time, she had to make commitments for my life.
Yeah.
And the commitments were, Lord, let my baby live, and I promise you that she will live to do your work.
Mm.
Let my baby live, and I promise you that she would live to do your work. But see, the praying without ceasing was the issue. The consistent praying without ceasing and the commitments that she had not made.
Yeah.
I came out of that with no brain damage and no heart problems. The issue is that, and I grew up listening to this story because my mother would speak at Women's Day programs and Mother's Day programs. I am the rock upon which she found her faith.
Yeah.
So she made commitments to see me through school, and then she would go into the ministry.
Got you.
Right, which she did. But during the interim, they didn't change my diet.
Got you.
So by 7, I didn't want to eat meat. What is that? Lamb. She's cooking dinner, right? I said, what is it? She says, lamb. I said, well, what is it? She says, lamb. I said, but what is it? She says, lamb. Like a baby lamb? Oh, no, I can't eat that. You know? You know what I'm saying? Oh, no, I can't eat that. Detroit Public Schools at that time was pretty good. We went to the petting zoos. We went upstate. We had all kinds of field trips and whatnot. I'm like, oh, no, I can't eat that. And what's chicken? Like a bird, a real bird? It's like, oh, no, I can't eat that. My daddy, when he came home, he was like, you better eat everything on your goddamn plate. Don't beat your goddamn ass, right?
Yeah, sound like a typical.
Lord have mercy. And so as educated as my parents were, we not in the projects now. My father was Morehouse graduate. He was, coming out the army. He was very well versed in Q sci-fi to the day he died, right?
Okay.
So, but they didn't get it. They didn't get it. So I was not only not wanting to eat the meat, I was throwing their alcohol down the drain. I was throwing their cigarettes away. Now my
Wait,
giving
so you were throwing their
I,
toxins away?
I was like, really? I know this is not good. When they, and so my given name is Regina, right? But they never called me Regina. It was always Gina. Gina, Gina. It was like a song. Gina, Gina, right? When they could not find their cigarettes and their alcohol, Regina, right? That was a beating I was willing to take. And so, and so really just being in and out, but I had profuse nosebleeds.
Yeah.
In and out of hospitals, emergency rooms. I mean, it would be so much blood, everything would stop.
Mm.
And I got to a point where, and even prior to that, and this particular thing that I didn't mention is, I think, what has really emphasized the woman that I've become.
Okay.
In addition to that, Dr. Stewart died 2 years after my surgery.
That was the doctor that did the open heart surgery.
The doctor who discovered the issues.
Okay.
The ones who saved my life.
Okay.
The sister who had 3 children of her own, was married to a PhD, Dr. Philip Robinson. She was dead at 42.
Wow.
From leukemia. Wow. I was in 2nd grade, and I knew the day that she was going to be operated on, and I didn't want to go to school. My mother's like, you got to go to school. I said, I don't want to go to school. I want to stay home and pray for Dr. Stewart. But I had to go to school.
Now, where did that come from? Because how old were you at this time?
I was 6.
How would you know the power of prayer? Was it because you experienced it
because
for yourself?
My mama brought me up praying.
Okay,
I prayed every night with my mama.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? God is my health. I cannot be sick. He is my strength, and I am strong. Bless So that was like ritual.
Got you.
Right? And so, but in the midst of it, I'm thinking, after seeing at Dr. Stewart's wake and seeing this body, and I'm trying to figure out what this death is. Because at this point, you're getting this, everybody dies. And I'm like, how could everybody die when we are the children of God?
Yeah.
And God don't die. So I had the conceptualization of death being a finality, of ceasing to exist.
Yeah.
Right? So I wrote all the time as a child. I wrote stories about people finding love, coming together, and be torn away through this thing called death. All right? So my childhood is a little different than a lot of people, because I had the consciousness of something different than a regular childhood. Then by 10, when Detroit was on fire after Dr. King's assassination, then that was indelibly impressed upon me. Because we had serious military tanks with the huge cannons literally rolling down my street.
Right.
Seeing 12th Street burning, you see the red flyers and the dirt and just the soot and all the black smoke and all of that. And then I think that winter we were hit by just blizzards. So all of that created this consistent frequency of me praying and praying.
What emotion can you go back in that moment? What few emotions would you say lasted with you experiencing that?
I was always wanting to know, but I've always known that there was something wrong, even before Dr. King's assassination.
Yeah.
But I've always known that there was something wrong in the world.
Okay.
All right, from my perspective. And of course, my world was very small at that time, but the advertisings for so many of the charities and the flashing before us on commercials of starving children in Biafra and the swollen bellies and the flies at the eyes and all of this. So at that time, I'm seeing this and the connection, but that's part of the issue too, is so that we think that this is Africa.
Yeah.
This is all of Africa,
Yeah.
right? And so I was feeling blessed to not be there, but also knowing that I really wanted to know what is wrong.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to do something about it.
Got you.
All right. So at 10, I'm hit by a car in front of the house, hospitalized for a couple of weeks. My parents are like going at it. 11, they said, we're divorcing. Who do you want to live with? I don't want to live with either one of y'all. My parents, I love my parents.
I think that's how people feel about the election right now.
Absolutely, right? And
Yeah.
so they sent me south to my grandmother.
Got you.
So at 11, I experienced my first family reunion, the McKinney Ellis clan. And they met every year. We're still meeting every year. So we're about in the 74th or 75th year of family reunions. So
Got you.
at 11, that was my first family reunion in Jacksonville, Florida.
Got you.
Now, the preoccupation with this thing they call death was still with me.
Okay.
And
because you've had so many near-death experiences as well, too.
Well, and just the whole thought about it. And then, of course, you have the movies.
Yeah.
And at that time, we had Vietnam. And so my mother counseled several young men who went to war and came back, and those who went to war and didn't come back. But the five and dime stores, what Kresge's was the five and dime stores, and you could see, and I was aware that we were being given easy bake ovens and little vacuum cleaners and baby dolls and stuff as children, and I had my neighbors that I played with, and one family was Muslim and the other family was Jehovah's Witness, and we would go, and we were Christian, Methodist, Episcopal, so we would all go to church with each other.
Gotcha.
And whatnot. But the boys were being given G.I. Joes and military tanks and guns and fire engines and stuff, but the girls were given dolls and this and that.
Yeah.
And so the boys who played with the dolls with us, they were called sissies.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm aware that the programming that we got as children was not programming brothers to be fathers.
Exactly.
Or to be husbands.
Yeah.
And so all of this is still with me mentally. Right. But when I get to Jacksonville, I go to the cemetery. Now, I understand I still have a preoccupation with this death thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure
How old
that
are you at this time?
I can't figure. I'm 11. I can't figure this thing out, right? So I was 7.
Yeah.
At realizing I can't eat this. Of course, I didn't give that out. I didn't get that out.
Yeah.
At that time. All right. And so that's where the consistent sickness and all of this and bringing violation into my life.
Yeah.
With the car accident. 11, going to the cemetery. Looking at the cross on the tombstone, looking at the name, looking at the first date, the date that the spirit entered the world, or the date that they took their first breath.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a line, then there's a date where the spirit had exited the world, or they took their last breath, or they died.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not thinking that all of it is the same at this particular point, but the line constitutes the life. All right. And I would look and see that there were children that were in that grave, in that cemetery.
Yeah.
And there were elders, and just doing the math. All right. But the line represents the life, but it represents the respiriting. So you have the entering of the spirit, you have the respiriting that constitutes the life, and then you have the exiting of the spirit.
Right.
Or the death.
Yeah.
Right. And so so looking at the panoramic view of all of the crosses on the tombstones, and then I look up at the church, and the cross is on the church. So I stopped going.
Stop going to church.
I stopped going. I was like, oh no, I can't go there. Because the cross is right. Because the cross was like the symbol for death to me. And I'm like, oh no, I can't go there. Yeah. And my grandmother, she gave me that out.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's, trying to drag a child somewhere that they don't want to go. And so anyway, I stopped going and then nobody could talk to me about what this death thing is.
Right. People don't want to talk
about it. At 14, we're beginning to get into more of the adulteration. So you're already being adulterated, being fed like kids.
Yeah.
With the hamburgers, hot dogs, Vienna sausage, all the candy, the this, the that. But at 14, then we start trying to smoke and drink a little. And I had one of my girlfriend's mothers. She would say, "Here, have this," all right? Because she knew that we were headed for it at some point or whatever, right? So I'm falling out, just falling out. Can't drink, falling out.
Right.
At 14.
Yeah.
All right. And so anyway, I had a group of sisters, and we would wash cars. Car wash.
Yeah.
Donations. Nobody ever asked us what we were saving money for, right? But we would rent a bus, and then we would charge money to go to the beach.
Okay.
Right? And make money. And we always had at least $150 in our treasury, right?
Oh, that's good money.
And so that's 14, 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
And so we're at Jacksonville Beach, and I'm in so much water. And then the next thing you know, I'm out. I'm down. This is death by drowning. This is my consciousness. I'm dying. I'm drowning. And this little girl pushed her raft out to me. And I was able to but the water level was right here.
Yeah.
I was down. They say you generally go down for 3 times. I was down 5th time.
Okay.
So it's just like a sinkhole or something. It's like there was no bottom.
Okay, you couldn't swim.
And I couldn't get the momentum.
Okay, gotcha.
To really, because you're in the ocean. It's not like you're at a pool.
Yeah.
In the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
Right? And so coming out of that really shifted a lot within me because nobody was there.
Okay.
Nobody experienced that. Nobody saw that. That was me and God.
Yeah.
Right? So coming out of that, high school band, marching band, symphonic band, concert band, first chair, clarinet, president of student government, salutatorian, 9th grade graduation. I mean, I excelled in the midst of all of that. My grandmother came to my 9th grade graduation. My mother, by this time, had a hysterectomy, and it was here in Jacksonville from Detroit. And she started teaching. And so my grandmother said, wow, at the graduation, she said, I had no idea that she said she was doing any of that because I would just be gone. Right? I would just be gone. She took my switchblade from me one night. She was like, you 14 years old, you don't need to be carrying knives. But I was out. I was out and about, you know? And so anyway, she had no idea. So in the midst of it, in the midst of all of that, she thought I was just what they call a hoosie. Just a hoosie. I had a boyfriend at 11. That's what created our first fight was my boyfriend, Mr. James Charles Reed. And we had such a good time. We danced, we did.
My mother calling it a hussy. You a hussy.
All right. So that's what she thought. She had no idea who she was dealing with, who I am. But the reality of what I know is that each generation should become more dynamic than the previous one. Now, my grandmother was born in 1899. She was a Spelman College graduate. She worked with Mary McLeod Bethune.
Gotcha.
Right? All of her brothers went to Morehouse. Her younger sister went to Spelman. My sister was at Spelman when I was there. You understand? So I come from a family that really valued education.
Right.
And they valued the church and they valued God. You understand? But they couldn't hear me.
Different frequency.
They couldn't really hear me. And so my mother gets a job at the American Federation of Teachers as a national rep. So we moved back to Detroit. By this time, I'm finishing up 10th grade in Jacksonville. Didn't want to leave. I went through a lot of mental turmoil. Get back to Detroit and start school and get hit by a car in the band.
Wait, this is the second time you're getting hit by a car?
In band class. Coming out of the school, 40 students with music and instruments practicing for the parade. And my boyfriend at the time, Michael, he says, Mr. Grasty, you know, niggas in Detroit is crazy. You don't really need to have us in the street. Mr. Grassy says, "Oh, everything will be fine, right?"
Yeah.
So at 40, he said, we need to practice for the Michigan Day Parade.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm the only child in there who's already had marching band experience because of how I grew up in Jacksonville.
Got you.
Right. So 8th, 9th, 10th grade, that's all we did. I'm practicing 8 hours a day
Yeah.
between marching and my actual instrumentation. Right.
Okay.
So Big Carl had to be about 6'2", big brother with his tenor sax. He's in the middle of the street. So the band is going this way, the car comes this way, everybody scatters. Carl is in the middle of the street, and instead of him hitting Carl, he came all the way to the curb. He boom, hit me. My leg is up. So Michael, he's just upset. He is livid, right? And then the band starts chasing the car down the street because he didn't stop. And so my mother was doing a collective.
I should have hauled off and whooped Mr. Grass.
Right. And so my mother was working on a collective bargaining campaign in Baltimore. The teachers were striking. And so she actually had an apartment there because that's how long the work was. But she kept saying, "I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back." So when Michael calls her and lets her know that I'd been hit, she didn't have to go back. She came to the hospital. And my mother was Virgo. She's got this vibe, this stoic kind of energy. She's not like falling all apart and weeping and crying and hollering and all.
Yeah.
Just some kind of way, right? And so I'm in the hospital. They drill a hole through my leg, pin me up to 150 pounds of weight because the bone was at the knee, the femur at the knee, and it was like this. It was jagged.
Okay.
So 150 pounds of weight to pull so that they could reset.
Okay.
So I'm in traction. And then I'm addicted to the Demerol because I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
So they're giving me needles like this every 4 hours on the hour. Except I'm pushing the button at a quarter till.
Right.
You understand? I mean, I'm really going through it. And so going through that, I was hospitalized for maybe 4 months. And coming out of that, and Michael would bring me after I started getting better, but they went in, put a pin in, and then I was still there, and they took the pin out, so I went in twice. They went into surgery twice.
Yeah.
And so by the time I'm going through that, then I spend the rest of 11th grade and 12th grade in physical therapy. Whirlpool, physical therapy. Bending it because they told me that the break was so bad that I would never walk without a limp.
Yeah.
And so my mother saw me at home in the cast, and she came home one day, and I had Ramsey Lewis on, and I was just a dancing. And she looked at me, right? And she just, it was just a vibration. It was a feeling that I got when we looked eye to eye.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, not this time.
Yeah.
I'm dancing. I'm dancing. And so I applied to school. I was commencement speaker for my 12th grade graduation.
Okay.
My counselor made me write another speech because the first one was too intense.
Okay.
Right? And so we got a graduating class of hundreds of students, and I delivered that commencement speak. I started public speaking in 11th grade.
Okay.
And, with the counseling that you get to see if you should go to trade school or whether you should go to college or whatever, and I couldn't figure out what I would major in. But journalism and communication was part of that. But then we did a mock thing with radio, and I just could not take myself. I just couldn't take the voice, right? And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. And then I was interested in psychology. I was interested in medicine. I was interested in business. I was interested in advertising.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being a psych major.
Gotcha.
University of Florida.
Now I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
From a spiritual perspective, I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I also believe that we play a part in creating our experiences before we get here. Why do you think, just based on my concept of life, why do you think you created those experiences for yourself?
I think what really happens is that people say everything happens for a reason. I'm saying everything happens by law.
Okay.
So the reason is law.
Okay.
We don't necessarily know how we are participating with it by virtue of our thoughts, by virtue of what we've said. But I am of the thought and knowing that when you have violation charged upon your blood from the rot of pigs and cows and turkeys and chicken and alcohol and tobacco and sugar and all of this stuff that is and are the tools of our oppression, that it enhances the capacity to bring violation into your experience.
Gotcha.
All right. And so many of us, we come from greatness, even though we have seen with our parents, our grandparents, our aunties, our uncles, our cousins, we've seen the tools of oppression at work, and then we've seen the weapons of mass destruction, which is the refined white sugars, the white flours, the pancakes, waffles, breads, biscuits, donuts, croissants, cakes, cookies, all of this. And nobody really made a proper assessment that these things are what the actual problems are for us, and what's creating the dysfunction and the distractions and the distortion in our capacity to truly think.
Gotcha. Let me play devil's advocate. By the way, I'm plant-based vegan. I've been that for 13 years. But I want to play devil's advocate to those out there who are saying, well, what about the people who ate meat and pig and blah, 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 but they didn't have those experiences? So what about those people? Like,
well, so many ones are experiencing so many things. So we got the high blood pressure, we've got the cancer, we've got the diabetes, we've got the gout. When I was a little girl, my grandmother would call it senility. Now they call it dementia.
Yeah.
So there have always been issues that have crystallized in our tissues that are manifesting at some degree of sickness, illness, dis-ease.
Yeah.
Right? That nobody really escapes it.
Yeah.
The issue I think a lot of people are having is, well, he or she was vegan, or they were vegetarian, and they had a heart attack, or they died, or they did this, or they did that. And I'm saying, but none of us grew up that way. We were not born that way.
Yeah.
You understand? So very few of us now, my son did not get all of that. And I had been in cleanse mode for 4.5 years before I conceived him.
Yeah.
And his father had been also. All right. So most of those ones who change their diet do not have the support in realizing the importance of cleansing from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years of accumulation, concentration, contraindication of nitrates, nitrites, BHA, BHT, artificial colors, artificial flavors, the rot of pigs, cows, turkeys, chicken, alcohol, all of this stuff, which is still impacting and affecting people.
And the energy of that too.
And the violation charged upon the blood.
Yeah.
And the conversation I had with Mrs. Coretta Scott King. Now, mind you, at 5, I watched the March on Washington. Because of my family, there was a lot of focus on the civil rights movement and Atlanta and all of that. So I was right there. Everything in me went like this. I knew I should be progression of us as a people.
Yeah.
From the time I was 5.
Gotcha.
40 years to the day later, I'm in Dr. King's house serving Coretta Scott King. I said, Mrs. King, I am so grateful and so thankful for everything that you all tried to do, but you did not ask the right question. She said, what question? I said, you should have asked what makes a people feel entitled to capture you, enslave you, beat you, rape you, cut your pregnant bellies open. And mind you, they're still cutting our pregnant bellies open.
Yeah.
Castrate us, set us afire, whip us, beat us, declare that we're less than human, that we have no rights, that they have the responsibility to respect.
Yeah.
What makes them that way? She said, what does? I said, they are that way because their blood burns hot with the rot of pigs and cows and turkeys and chicken and alcohol and tobacco and white sugar and the white flours and the croissants and the French bread and the donuts and the cheese and the eggs and all of this stuff that they have instituted as the way that we should be living.
Mm.
And nobody got it. So that all of us who were socialized to believe that our education was our way forward, we didn't change the diet.
Yeah.
And we're not even realizing, just looking at the word diet, D-I-E, and that cross that's on that graveyard is the methodology of our oppression. So our oppression is cellular oppression.
Yeah.
Made with trillions of cells, and now all of our cells are filled with all of this sludge and chemicals and poisons and this and that. But it is the escalation of a world-conquering rampage that started thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's morphed into a global initiative of depopulation, zero population, and genocide.
Yeah. Yep.
And we've all been impacted and affected by it. And I was watching Raoul Peck's, who did I Am Not Your Negro.
Yeah.
He's got one that Democracy Now! Was highlighting yesterday. I was watching that. And it's called Eliminate All the Brutes. Eliminate all the brutes. And so when we talk about the history, this is one of the most complete historical accounts of the genocide that health and wellness conversation is insufficient to address.
Gotcha.
Because what we're talking about at this point, this health and wellness is not sufficient. Why? Because you're already being counted out.
Yeah.
It's like there's a boxing ring, a global boxing ring, and Africans throughout the diaspora and other ones are already the referee got us on the mat, and he's like 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, and I'm like, get up, get up, get right. So I am the voice of our liberation and our resurrection, because all of what is happening is going to literally ensure that those who are the sowers of the seeds of sickness, illness, disease, and death is popular in common activity, collective learning and education, and the path of prosperity. No, they will reap a harvest that is consistent with the nature of the seeds that they've been sowing.
Yeah.
All right, so when we look at the countries that participated in the Atlantic slave trade, then look at their economies now.
Yep. Tanking.
You understand? So I'm just saying, so at this particular point, no, we have to realize that there has always been absolute law that governs existence, that we are on a planet that is a biospheric intergalactic spaceship traveling through eternity, and we each have come into this realm of eternity through the sacred fluids of our mother's womb, sparked by the sacred fluid of our fathers, and then we got no support in respecting the sacredness, the divinity, and the sanctity of being.
Yeah.
Of all being.
Yep.
And so at this particular point in time, it doesn't matter what your choices have been. At this particular point in time, you're being called to choose life. Now, if you don't choose life, now life is already choosing you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody has it.
Your existence.
Everybody is it.
Yeah.
That is the evidence of our worthiness and our deservedness. But everybody that hasn't has not committed to it.
Yeah.
This is the issue. There is no wealth that is greater than life itself.
Nope.
Everybody has it.
Yeah.
Everybody is it. Then why are the people poor? It's a mentality. It's a mindset. We have been duped into thinking that richness is about the things.
Yeah.
It's about having the minerals that come from the earth.
Yeah.
But the minerals are always going to stay with the earth. What we're able to ingest in terms of the iron, the phosphorus, the manganese, the silica, the magnesium, all of the things that allow our cells to have this woo, to get that frequency and energy. Once you're really cleansing from all of that blocks and obstructs our ability to really be properly nourished, to be properly charged, to be properly thinking, to be in a place and space where we realize there's one real eye that truly sees, and it sees through every eye.
Absolutely.
The activation of that real eye comes when we care to fully participate in our liberation. Now, there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of philosophizing and hypothesizing and, rhetoricizing and all of that. And none of it is sufficient for bringing us up out the ditches and valleys of degradation.
Yeah.
Where we were fed like kids. And by 21, we were called adult. Fully adulterated. No longer what the Creator intended. We know shame, game, guilt, blame.
Yeah.
Irresponsibility. We got this distortion in our minds about what life is because the church that influenced us, the educational, miseducational system that influenced us, and the society, the death culture that influences us, never properly gave us any orientation as to what purpose in existence upon the planet actually is.
Yeah, which is why you start to see us have so many issues around self-esteem, self-love, self-activation, authenticity, because we're drowning in guilt, shame, and being controlled.
Because the blood has been defiled.
Yeah.
So the spirit is charged upon the blood, and the blood is perusing through 100,000 miles of blood vessels, capillaries, veins, and arteries.
Right.
The blood is polluted. That's what makes these ones crazy. That's what puts them in a place where they have this delusion to think that their whiteness is superior. A delusion. Now, a man, a woman can believe a thing all of their lives, and it was never the truth.
Right.
And this is what we're seeing in the system of things, is that we believed certain things that was never the truth, but we were told to know the truth, and the truth would make us free. So we have to have the care to really ask, knock, and seek the truth, and not just information.
Yeah.
Well, I did my research, but whose research? What are you talking about? Because in the miseducational system, you understand, you get your master's degree and your PhD from being able to do research of other people's thoughts, opinions, and whatever. And none of it had to be the truth. It's speculation.
And none of it you had to create.
But there's that which is beating our hearts and breathing us. Now we're having to commit to that.
Yeah.
And the commitment carries us. So the commitments my mother made for me at 20 at the University of Florida in my sociology courses, realizing that University of Florida, 30,000 students of the 30,000, 1,500 were Black in the mid-'70s. Blacks didn't start going there till 72. I was admitted in a class of 75.
Okay.
By my junior year, when I get into my major courses in sociology and psychology, in the statistics of 20,000 Black Americans dying every year from sugar diabetes, another 15,000 dying from complications from obesity, another 12,000 from cancer to lung, another 8,000 from cancer to pancreas, another 6,000 from this, another right? So my head begins to spin. Then by the time you factor in our single-headed households, our divorce rate, our quote-unquote illegitimate children, our teenage pregnancies, our abortion rate, our incarceration, our juvenile delinquency, they're putting it all together and as if to say, oh, because of the disproportionate percentage of you all who are all affected by these things, this is the evidence of your inherent inferiority. But when I ask the question, what's the cause and what's the cure? They say they don't know.
Mm.
And I'm saying, if you don't know, I'm in the wrong place, because I need to know. I made a commitment. I knew at 5 that I should be progression of my people. I knew at 5. Now here I am 20.
Yeah.
And my mother's working really hard to pay out-of-state tuition, all of that. She paid for every dime of my room and board, this and that. I got no scholarships to go to school.
Yeah.
No grants. I would have gotten a scholarship, 4-year scholarship, had I gone to Spelman, though. But Spelman didn't have on-campus housing. I only applied to 2 schools because I really didn't want to go. All right. But here I'm finding that you all think that you are inherently superior to us, and you're using this as your evidence, but you leave a trail of bodies everywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's not me making stuff up. That's your history.
Yep.
All right. So there is no way in hell we could be inferior to you, because we're not murderers and liars and bastardizers. We're not the ones who are creating these atomic bombs and threatening the whole of humanity.
Yeah.
All right. But the issue for us is still realizing that our blackness is not our salvation.
That's really important. That's huge. We've literally hinged our salvation on our blackness, as if we're going to be forgiven and receive our salvation because of what we've endured.
And there's no, and so this is why I'm saying that law is an inherent part of existence.
Mm.
It does not depend upon anybody to agree with it. Justice is an inherent part of existence. It does not depend upon a jury of your peers determining from the lack of evidence or their opinion or what you look like or how you make them feel.
Yeah.
To be the dispensers of justice. No, justice is an inherent part of our reality. Perfection is an inherent part of existence. We are perfectly and divinely designed, and then we've been taught to deny perfection.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, no, at this particular point in time, our salvation from what? From sickness, illness, disease, and death, from obesity, heart disease, diabetes, stupidity, insanity, butchery, pharmacology, surgeries, all of what we're dealing with is going to come from your respecting your inherent perfection
Yeah.
that life has gifted you. That absolute and supreme intelligence that blazes that sun and has the world spinning is the evidence of how blessed we each are with each and every breath and every beat of our heart. And how dare us come to a point where we do not have any regard for ourselves.
Right.
Or have any sense of responsibility.
Yep. Or correcting it.
And so I'm saying, and have been saying, since I came out of college in June of 1979, my mother, I got my last allowance on June 1st. I graduated June 6th.
Okay.
My mother followed her commitment to go into the ministry. All right. This is New Thought Christianity, Unity School of Christianity, Hillside Chapel and Truth, where the late Dr. Barbara Blake King was there. Same thought.
Okay.
This graduating class out of Detroit had at least 14 ministers. This was the largest group of Africans in the diaspora to get degreed by this system of religious thought.
Okay.
I was at that graduation, And as soon as they turn their tassels, the corks start flying, the meat start carving, the cigarettes start lighting up and everything. I said, Mama, these people did not give you any support in getting over your vices.
Yeah.
Well, it's not what you put into your mouth that defiles you. It's what you allow to come from you. I said, Mama, these people gave you no support for getting over your vices. Now, there's a book that my husband had called The United States and the Jews. I just opened it up, and it's a small book. And it says, we will sow the people in vice so that they are no longer connected to their spiritual help.
Mm.
What are the vices? When the law, the natural law is self-preservation. So everything in existence exalts a full effort in its living, does nothing to undermine itself, knows its food, excretes its waste, knows its kind, perpetuates itself, and will respond when it senses that its life is being threatened. How do we know our behavior has been modified? Because we don't do what other intelligences do.
At all.
We are laying up with those ones who are undermining us. It's the alcohol, it's the tobacco, it's all of the garbage that they have. I was in Michael's hobby shop one day and I picked up a bag of Skittles. They didn't have Skittles when I was a child. I read the bag ingredients, and it's just colors.
Chemistry.
That's all it was.
Colors
I'm
and
like,
chemistry.
Tavon risked his life for a bag of Skittles and an iced tea. But this is legal.
Yeah.
So the system does not absolve us of duty, obligation, and responsibility in the exaltation of life.
Right. Let's back up for a second, because you started your lifestyle shift and change and became vegan in 1978. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What inspired that? Because I want to lead to another question.
All of those statistics and them saying, oh, well, we don't know the cause and we don't know the cure, but because of affirmative action, you're both black and female.
Gotcha.
You can get paid for doing the research. And of course, we can show you how to slant your research, your study, to prove whatever it is you're hypothesizing. And then based upon the applicability of your research to science or to medicine or intelligence or whatever, then you can continue to get paid.
Got you. And so I asked that question because when you do your research and you start to see the civil rights movement, you start to see this revolutionary movement around food as well too within our community. And you see this popping up of a Dr. Layla Africa. You see a popping up of a Dr. Sabi, Dr. R.S. Latham, all during this 60s, 70s era. And so it makes me think that during that era, that was a time that we were having an awakening to some extent.
It's like the light was flooding the planet.
Yeah.
The light was flooding the planet.
Yeah. And the powers that be saw that the light was flooding, and that not only was the light flooding for us, that we were sharing that light with the younger generation of, our counterparts as well too. And they were going along with the light as well too.
Right.
And so as we start to see this manifest, and I think the reason why I want to bring that up is because a lot of people think like this whole idea of not eating meat and being vegan is a new movement that started in 2018 when the documentary What the Health came out.
Right.
And so I just think it's really important to kind of rewind, because now you're moving forward past that and you get to see what happens to you and how you evolve spiritually, physically, emotionally as a result of making that choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and I was around and been around all of those ones that you've named.
Mm.
The issue for us too is realizing, one, is that because the body is so perfectly and divinely designed, from the day that we came out our mother's womb, somebody bathed us until we could bathe ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. So 40 years of life, 45 years, 50 years, 20 years, you're talking thousands of days of life.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of days of life. The body was cleansing every day. But the system of health and wellness is not supporting us in knowing that we should be facilitating the body's daily cleansing
Yeah.
internally.
Yeah.
And so I've seen so many vegan vegetarians since I've been in Atlanta. I came to Atlanta 6 months after graduating, and I've been here ever since. I had a strict vegetarian restaurant in Little Five Points from 1994 to 1999. I was the second of my sisters to have a restaurant. The first one was Adio Akil, who praises all natural products. She's in New York now. So she was the first one of us to start a vegetarian restaurant. And she was over off of James P. Broadley near the campus.
Okay, got you.
Right. So I started in 1994. I closed in 1999. 14-item salad bar, was getting as much organic as I possibly could. 2 doors down from 7 custom adornment boutique. I specialize in doing jewelry,
Okay,
metalwork, all of that. So Mother Earth's adornments for the whole being, body, heart, mind, soul, and more. So people could come in, they could get the talk, they could get the counsel, the music. It was like, I was the heart of Little 5 Points.
5.
Right? And so, but the issue for us is I've seen so many ones who were there at that time, who came, and they were 17, 18, 19 years old. They're in their early 40s, 50s now. All right. And so the issue is that for many who got it, who understood, their children did not take it and run with it.
Mm.
All right. Each generation. So when we talk about purpose in being upon the planet, nobody has really addressed it. Purpose in being on the planet is to exalt life, to be the evidence of the blessedness in being as these living, loving, intelligent, potent, immortal points of an absolute and supreme intelligence that is beginningless, endless, infinite, and eternal, so gifting, so beneficent, so absolutely freaking amazing that it has gifted itself to absolutely everything and everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
We're immersed in nothing but it.
Yeah.
And we've been taught to disrespect it, disregard it, to dishonor it. And so our leverage in terms of what do we do as a result of the realization of there being a global initiative of depopulation, zero population, and genocide.
Yeah.
Your first line of defense. See, we're not at war. We're being warred against.
Mm.
Right? We're not at war. We're being warred against. And the methodology of the intention of the warring against is to have us divided within ourselves, divide and conquer. But the divisiveness happens here first.
Yeah, inside. It's an internal war first.
And so as individuations of the presence of this absolute and supreme intelligence, your first line of defense is to do nothing to undermine yourself or your cells, since the methodology of our oppression is to oppress our cellular functioning.
Yeah.
Cellular liberation is the foundation of our spiritual, mental, emotional, and reorientation upon the path of eternal life. Now, the paper currency, you could take all of the money that has ever been printed, all of the coin that has ever been minted. It does not matter whose currency you're talking about. It does not have the value of one beat of our heart or one breath that we take.
Yeah.
All right. So now we got to deal with this mental reality, this changing of the mind, so that we think our success is about our doing what they do. We think our success is about the accumulation of stuff that you can't do anything with because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
how much of it you have if you don't know how to eat.
Yeah.
If you really have not come to a point in place where you're taking responsibility to ensure the progression of your lineage,
Yeah.
just being able to have babies and having the freedom to determine who comes and who goes.
Yeah.
As abortion has become the number one killer of us as a people, and heart disease is the number one killer of all people.
Yeah.
But the issue for us is realizing that that is the methodology of our oppression. The agenda is to have us dead. The agenda is to put us in a place where we have never self-realized, self-actualized, ever harmonized with the will of existence as intelligences of existence, that we do not acknowledge that all being is divine.
Yeah.
And the religious institutions seeded us for that. And that man has been given dominion over all other ones, so that the practice of speciesism, where these creatures do not have the right to their lives, whether it was the elephants for their tusk, or the lions, or the leopards, or the panthers, or here in the States with the escalation of Western invasion and whatnot, the murder of the buffalo so that they could breed their cows and send those carcasses back to England,
Yeah.
which had already been warring against Scotland and Ireland for pasture land.
Yeah.
You understand? Because they exalted the frequency of energy of warfare. And what feeds that energy is feeding off of flesh and carcass.
Yeah. You know, there's an interesting part in the Bible where, and I'm spiritual, not as religious, but I do think there's some wisdom that you can definitely take from the Bible, where Jesus walks into this place where they're exchanging money, and they're under the impression, most people are under the impression that he's upset and flips a table because they're exchanging money. But if you read the Bible in Aramaic, which is his language, he calls them robbers and murderers. Now, the only thing that they're murdering at that time is animals. They're doing sacrifices at that time. And this is a place where they were doing multiple sacrifices. You could smell it
Right.
walking into the place.
Right.
And the reason why I bring that up is because one of the things that you've seen right after that reintroduction of the whole movement to eat more plants and eat better and live better, etc., right after that comes carnivore diet. Not everybody is talking about the importance of meat.
Right.
And how you should only eat meat and you shouldn't eat these vegetables because they'll kill you. And so it's very funny how the mental games that are constantly being played on people,
Right.
and how people wade back and forth
Right.
as they're playing these mental games, because a lot of influencers are out there. I mean, you see a lot of influencers who've been plant-based for 20 years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they say, well, a vegan diet almost killed me. Now I'm carnivore.
Right. But see, and I speak to this because over the last 22 years or so, I've been doing inspirational lifestyle change consulting.
Yeah.
Right. And after being in communication with Ma'a and Dr. Sabi, and growing up with Lila Africa, Dr. Richardson, Dr. Stephen Tates, these were my folk.
Yeah.
As a 20-some-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but I realized that nobody really is speaking to the amount of toxicity that is being loosened up because of the perfection of the body.
Yeah.
That is cleansing daily. So once you phase off of meat, dairy, eggs, chicken, fish, flesh, flour, alcohol, tobacco, sugar, whatever other drugs you've been doing, your body is going to start moving into hyper cleanse mode.
Yeah.
All right. So that if you don't know to open up the channels of elimination,
Yep.
that that those things can get out, and you cannot guesstimate or estimate how much is being loosened up. But the cleaner you eat, or if you don't eat, if you're fasting, then it's going to be loosening up more. So we're just cleansing daily.
Yeah.
Right? And many ones who are doing the fasting, they're never doing enemas. They may do saunas, but they really are not consistent over time.
Yeah.
And what I am advocating is that where you have been given microdoses of fluoride, pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics, hormones, estrogens, progesterones, testosterones, all of these hormones and chemicals and preservatives and whatnot. When you stop eating all this stuff, you got to get this stuff out, or the body is so intelligent, it's going to isolate so much of this from going directly into the blood, into the brain, and create these cysts and tumors.
Yeah.
Full of poison.
Yeah. And in science, we call it a Herxheimer reaction, but the layman's term is a healing crisis. And a lot of times what people are experiencing is a healing crisis that they put a label on it and call it some form of dis-ease, or that their body is reacting to the diet itself.
Right.
And what's misunderstood is that your body isn't Amazon Prime.
Right.
When you heal, you're not going to heal in 2 days. And you may be on this very good diet for you, and 2 years later, all of a sudden, it seems like everything is falling out of your body. Your skin is erupting. You're having, excretions from your vagina. Like, you all of a sudden have this cyst that was never there, and now you're blaming it all on this diet. But really what it is now all of these elimination channels have opened up, and your body is actually trying to heal you. And the first thing that people do is figure out ways to shut it down.
Right.
Keep it in.
And go to the doctor. The doctor don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to it, right? He says, oh, well, you're deficient in protein.
Yeah.
Go get you some fish, or go get you some chicken. And of course, it just shuts the whole cleansing
and you start
process
that
down.
Toxification process all over.
And then, but feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel much better now. I'm like, sure you do.
Yep.
But the issue is your blood still bears a violation of violated beings.
Yeah.
I was talking to the cousin of one of my clients who passed away from, I won't even say it was the breast cancer that killed her. It was her nervousness about it all.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
Because the issue is that whatever they call it, whatever it's been labeled, all it is the accumulation of gunk in the body. It's mucus, it's chemical, it's preservatives, it's the waste of the parasites, organisms, worms, all of that. Your body is full of shit.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yep.
All right. So we want to get the shit out on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We want to be in a place, but in addition to that, there is the necessity of realizing that we're reconstituting the body to be 80% highly charged mineralized water.
Yeah.
Why? Because the earth is 80% water.
Yeah.
Water is the medium of intelligence. It holds frequency and vibration. Sister called me one night on my radio show years ago, and she says, well, who do you pray to? I said, before I could utter the thought, my cells receive it first. Whatever the thought, good, bad, ugly, otherwise, you are literally programming the waters of your cells.
Yeah.
Now, if the waters of your cells, or if your cells are really 80% garbage, then it's easy to have the negativity. It's easy to consistently go outside of yourself looking for whatever.
Yeah.
Now, dwelling in the presence of the absolute and supreme intelligence that other ones refer to God, I call the cosmic I am. The intelligence of existence. We're always in it. We're not acknowledging it.
Yeah.
The loving it. Thou shalt love thy mother, father, creator, God, thy Lord, the law.
Yeah.
With your whole body, heart, mind, with all of your might. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Loving the reality of existence itself. But understanding that the more poisoned the blood is, the more hellacious your experience is going to be.
Absolutely, because there's an internal war. And I think what happens is that people forget, you know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And this body is just a vehicle. And when you taint the mothership, then the total experience becomes a very different experience.
Right. And that's what the oppression is.
Yeah, you can't experience life in the life that you were set out to have. The total course of your life gets shifted.
Right.
Because you can't navigate. Your navigation system is off.
And you don't trust.
Don't trust. You can't break when it's time to break.
You have no faith.
You see what I'm saying? So your whole entire experience shifts because the vehicle and what you're supposed to be having this experience becomes completely tainted. And people forget, as above, so below. What goes in must come out.
But it's not getting out. That's the problem.
That's
with the obesity.
It's like taking a breath and holding it.
Right. It's not getting out.
Yeah.
And so our care will never do something without the care to do it.
Yeah.
The care to be realigned, reconciled, harmonized, reoriented, liberated, resurrected through the purification and edification of the body as the temple for the re-enthronement of the true spirits of the living God, Goddess that is our truth. It's the key. Now you have many who will take herbs. They'll do the clay. They'll do the enemas, but they've not forgiven.
Yeah. That's a huge part, that letting go, that surrendering, because you're asking your body to detox and remove things. But if you're in a mind state of holding on, attachment,
anger,
that's gonna happen physically as well too. You're not gonna want to let anything go as well too.
Right, and the anger, the pissation, the frustration, the resentments, all of these things, these emotions.
Yeah.
You know, the energy that you are emoting or charging upon yourselves will block and obstruct your liberation, because when we talk about and because liberation really isn't the conversation now.
Yeah.
You know, it's gentrification, it's diversity, it's inclusion.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things. It's the economy, it's the voting, it's all of these things. Nothing that people are really dealing with is going to ensure their progression upon the path of eternal life.
Right.
Right? And that's why the conversation about death and people feeling, because of the program, death is actually a program that's running here.
Yeah.
It is not God's will that we live and die without ever having lived.
Right.
All right.
It's a program that we submit to, though.
Right. The belief system. Yeah. But when your blood is defiled with the flesh of dead animals, then you can't really think a greater thought. And even if, like some of the metaphysicians, you've got the Ram Dass, you've got the Deepak Chopra, you've had Abraham Hicks, you've got all of these ones who are always talking about the law of attraction and all of the metaphysics, but they never talk about the food.
Yeah.
So we think, as they thought, that it doesn't matter what you eat. Even Reverend Ike, Neville Goddard, who was inspired, who Reverend Ike was inspired by.
Yeah.
It was, God is your imagination. But a lot of times you cannot literally have the levity of thought when your blood is defiled.
Yeah.
You can create what you like in the realm of materiality, But the issue is, if you have not really understood the actuality of dwelling in eternity upon the planet that is already in eternity, and there is no real government here. You cannot have a government in truth that are murderers, liars, thieves, bastardizers, and participators in the genocide of the planet.
Yeah.
There is no government here.
Yeah.
We have to become self-governing. That means that the clearing, the cleansing, the purification, and the consecration of the body to align us with the laws of existence itself and the eternal order, which is all there is the way that we really have the greatest leverage in creating the most expeditious cellular clearing, cleansing, purification, renewal, consciousness expansion possible, so that you have the opportunity to literally live your life and ensure the fullness in terms of understanding that the greatness is in us. See, these people have given us an orientation that your daddy, mama, and them should work themselves to death and leave you something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That the greatest gift is already in us, but we're on a DNA lockdown, so we can't access it.
Yeah.
So the cellular liberation that comes with the daily clearing, cleansing, purification, and then the consecration, the praying without ceasing, the communication with the absolute, the conscious association with what you put behind I am.
Yeah.
You understand? Coming to this place and say, no, I am this living, loving, intelligent, potent, and immortal point of the presence of this absolute and supreme intelligence that is beginningless, endless, infinite, and eternal. All of us can say that. Each of us can say that. We can't all say that we have degrees in this, that, and the other, but the greatest degreeing is 360 degrees of love, light, wisdom, truth, peace, poise, power, and potency that comes from being in harmony with the truth of yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that, if I would want to encourage people, is the same motivation that you have to create a heaven and riches on the outside of you. You should have that same motivation to create that same heaven and riches within you as well, too. And people just don't find that balance between the two. So you'll have somebody like a Reverend Ike over here who understands the laws of attraction and the importance of prosperity, but you have to do that within as well, too.
Exactly.
And not move in one direction that excludes balance. And so what would you say the difference is? Because since we're talking about this on a spiritual level, what would you say the difference is between spirituality and religion?
Religion is a binding. It's to bind. It's to cut us off.
And what exactly is it cutting?
It's cutting. Religion, as it has been implemented, has been the number one tool of divisiveness.
Yeah.
Right? It's a tool of divisiveness. It is not a necessity. The trees don't have a religion. The birds, the bees, we do not need religion. Religion is neither here nor there. It's a man-made thing.
Yes.
Okay? Right now, it's more trouble than it's worth in terms of adhering to a religion that has authorized you to be out of alignment with the laws that govern your being.
Yeah.
Spirituality is just a practice of being. Spirituality is not the end-all, do-all when you are not in light. Everyone is a spirit. The cats have a spirit, the dogs have, everything has spirit. So the practice of being, when you have been filled with toxicity, now we're having to qualify it in the sense that we're in this meeting realm upon the planet where there are those spirits that are in bodies and there are those spirits that have been disembodied.
Yeah.
Many are not able to see the disembodied spirits. Those spirits are still spirits.
Indeed.
All right? Now, and they're still practicing the spirituality, but they're disembodied. So what do? They try to influence those who are in bodies to move this way or that way or the other way. When people say, oh, well, spirit told me, and I'm looking at them and I'm trying to figure out, well, what spirits are you talking about?
Exactly.
How have you tapped in? Where are you tapped in? Now, I've sat with many, many gifted mediums and whatnot who have been trying to turn those gifts off because they were filled with meat, dairy, eggs, chicken, and fish, and garbage, so that they can't tap into the refined or the sublime or the exalted realms to be under the auspices and cultivation of exalted spirits. So spirituality right now is a buzzword. It is not sufficient for really or reorienting us as being intelligences of existence.
Gotcha.
Because we've come from nothing but that.
Yeah.
We're immersed in nothing but that. But then there is the way that it works as light.
Yeah.
The light
That can't be packaged into a word.
the light is the only sovereignty possible. Because the divisiveness, being able to see through, that real eye being activated, the actualization of this is a necessity. It's a necessity. But realizing the divinity of existence and everything is divine.
Yeah.
We're immersed in it. But being the progression of your lineage and ensuring the progression of your lineages is what we must do to be in a place where we are not participating with the genocide.
Absolutely. There was a movie last year. I think it was called They Cloned Tyrone.
Right.
Did you see it?
I saw that.
All right, cool. So, not to spoil it for anybody out there who didn't see it, but I think this is important for our conversation because in the movie, if you don't look at it on a deeper level, you may miss the point. But in all honesty, it's a documentary and not a movie. But in the movie, what you see is these different archetypes that are being cloned, specifically in the Africans and American communities. And these specific archetypes that they're choosing to clone aren't Malcolm X, not a Marcus Garvey, or nobody like that. There is a pimp, it's a drug dealer, and it's a prostitute. And these are the clones that they're cloning. And these archetypes are doing their bidding to keep the community in a lower state of vibration. And not only is that, but you see in the documentary that they're choosing to use food as a method of keeping them in a low vibrational state, so that you see this pimp, drug dealer, and prostitute who are now becoming conscious about what is going on. And as they're trying to unravel this problem, they sit down with some food, have some chicken, become unconscious, start laughing, and they almost forget about what they're needing to do.
Right.
In the movie, on one level, it upset me at one point. On one level, it's like, this is a great documentary. I hope that my people see this and they can see how we can stop being these archetypes because we're serving the same system that's creating the boundaries to our unlimited potential. And then on one level, it's like, well, this is also part of the prophecy because the devil has to tell you the truth to tell you a lie. So they have to almost tell you, like, this is what we're doing.
Right.
In order to do it. And so what would you say is a really, really good way for us to start breaking those archetypes? Because it's not just the archetypes that they showed in the documentary, but the archetype of being difficult in relationships, the archetype of being okay with not reaching our full potential, the archetype of I need to have physical things that validate me, all of these things. What's an approach to escape these archetypes that are keeping us bound from our unlimited potential?
Well, realizing the divinity of being, that we each are intelligences of existence.
Yeah.
But that's all there is. Everything is intelligent. Now, when you look at your life, how much do you do that is just completely detrimental to yourself?
Yeah.
We cannot be a detriment to ourselves and survive it.
Yeah.
That's what we must know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how much money you have. You understand? This whole our success by virtue of how well we do, where we live, the cars that we drive, and nothing's wrong with it.
Yeah.
The issue is that we have to be able to get off the planet without having died.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, you have to reprogram towards conscious immortality.
Yeah.
All right? Because most people, even those ones who got the college degrees, and this is where my concern is, that as man, you are the progenitor of lineages of people. It don't happen without you.
Yeah.
You've been poisoned all of your life.
Yep.
And you feel as though it's your right to poison yourself.
Yep.
This is how you cope. This is how you respond to the disparities. This is how you respond to what y'all calling the white supremacy. I said there is no such thing as white supremacy. What we're seeing is idiocy and stupidity and insecurity on crack and steroids.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Let's not even call it white supremacy. That's not what that is. That is just stupidity gone right.
Right.
And that is the evidence of the defilement and the filth of the bloodline.
Yeah.
All right. Our coming to a point where we realize we've been tainted by it requires us to be cleansed. So let's get aggressive about wanting and desiring and doing that which will facilitate our cleansing in respecting, reverencing, honoring, appreciating, and valuing the gift of life.
Cleansing of the false programming.
And the cleansing of the blood, because the bottom line is you clean that blood up, you're going to be thinking differently.
You're going to be thinking
You understand? So
feeling different.
Right. So a lot of people are doing the research, and we've got the all of the scholars have given their contributions and whatnot. So we think we got to read all of these books. And I'm saying, the intelligence of existence does not need a book to communicate with you. I don't care what book it is.
Yeah.
You do not have to have a book. You do have to have care.
Yeah.
You do have to respect and reverence and appreciate and honor being. That's where we are.
Yeah.
But coming to a point and place where you realize that when food is a tool of oppression, and then the weapons of mass destruction are the tobacco, the Black and Miles, the blunts, the wacky weed, all of this stuff destroying the integrity of your lungs, microdosing with any of the other things. And I'm saying, I don't care what island the plant has come from, where in Central or South America it's coming from, you've been fed with all kinds of garbage. So you're taking it, whether it's the ayahuasca, whether it's the frog venom, whatever y'all doing, your body is not even clean enough.
Yeah.
So that you can have the fullness of that consciousness expansion.
Which is why a lot of people who have ayahuasca and other plant medicines have a bad experience.
Because they're right, the body is full of garbage, and it's like there's no shortcut to God.
Yeah.
It's a daily effort.
Yeah.
That's why we've been given time.
Yeah.
Everybody's serving time on Mother Earth.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, but the issue is to come into harmony with the planet. So we're bringing the clay into the system, because the clays are the natural detoxifiers for the chemicals. It helps to pull and loosen. We're dealing with the horseradish, the cayenne, the garlic, things that the parasites don't like, but they will help clean up those arteries and veins and blood vessels and capillaries and whatnot, so that your breath meditation and your oxygenation can begin to work for you. Because a lot of people, they get up and then they just working out, they pumping, and all that's good, but all that poison is just being loosened up and it's going back into the system, going back into the muscles, and we're not getting the leverage that we should have in our thought to give the intelligence of our being a full reverence, respect, appreciation, love, and honor.
Yeah.
Because if you can do it for self, then you can do it for all.
Yep.
Because that's only one self. It's only one self. Self is God, but self cannot be God with the violation of rotting carcasses,
Yeah.
alcohol, tobacco, white sugar, and all of the white flour paste and mucus that binds all of that. So our day-to-day functioning is going to just be elevated. Why? Because we realize that we are the gift. There is nothing we can beg, borrow, steal, be awarded, or rewarded that is greater than who and what we already are.
Yeah.
But this is not about ego. This is not about vanity. This is about our appreciation that whatever our inheritance has been through our Aboriginal, our Indigenous, our Native, and our African ancestors, we are still here, and we're here to honor and to ensure the progression of us as a people.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with you being a millionaire.
Nothing.
And you can be a millionaire, but you are much more than that.
Yep.
In our care to be all of who we are.
100%.
You got to start somewhere. You understand? They say, think big. I say, no, think immortal.
Yeah.
No, don't just think big. It's not about just big.
Yeah. Think infinite.
We are immersed in nothing but the infinity of possibilities.
Yeah. You know, when I think about where we are in our journey as a people, and the first thing I see is the beauty, the creativity, the rhythm, the connection, etc. But then I see the results of systematic oppression, the lost look in a lot of our brothers and sisters' eyes, and the trauma. And there's got to be a way that we navigate ourselves back from that. And I always say that hurt people hurt people. And I see that in our community as well. A lot of hurt people, which creates individuals, which creates a lot of disconnection from source. And so we don't know that we are divine and we have divine divinity within us. And so I liken it to like looking at the body, and there's 37 trillion cells inside of the body. And if one, just one decides that I don't want to do what y'all doing no more, we call it cancer, and it can take us all away. But we also have to remember that there's 36 trillion, 999 billion, 999 million, 999,999 more cells ready to converge on this one cell with love and light and transform it through alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do we need to do in our community to start healing traumas so that
It's all cellular liberation.
yeah.
It's all the reconstitution of the body. It's the cleansing. It's the caring. It's the releasing, the letting go. It's the honoring. Because, I've seen those who are addicted to crack, those who are addicted to alcohol, those who are addicted to sex, those who were just the least likely to come out.
Yep.
But that's because they infused every atom and every cell of their being with the desire to do it, but then they had to go to God.
Yeah.
You understand? You had to go to God. God being the source of your being, God being the source of all there is, that there is an inherent appreciation and regard for it.
Yeah.
Now we have to call on it, invoke the God in us, because those cells are made with even more atoms. And the atom cannot be seen with the naked eye.
Right.
but it is nothing but intelligence. So our activation, and this is why we're being poisoned. This is why that which is called food is the tool of our oppression. Because the more you eat it, and it doesn't even matter, vegan, vegetarian, food is oppressive when you are being called to rise into another dimension of conscious immortality. You do not have to have any of it. None of it is a necessity. You don't have to have it. And we have people who have already proven that you don't have to have it.
The breatharians.
You understand? So we're all breatharian. Everybody has to breathe. It is the breath that is the animating, maintaining, sustaining force of our lives. Nothing that we consume is going to be readily absorbed or appreciated or internalized without the breath. Anyway, so no, just let's get back to the care to walk in the fullness of ourselves. See, we get what we ask for. There's a law that governs life.
Yeah.
All right? The law of thought, the law of reciprocity, the law of attraction, the law, period. You get what you ask for. You are an intelligence of existence that is immersed in nothing but intelligence of existence. So the more hydrated you are with the water, charged waters from our herbal formulas, the charged water, we're charging the water in our body so people can put the water out in glass jars, put it in the sun charges it, then they put it in their body, and then they off on some stupid stuff. You understand? I mean, just stupid. Pornography, this, that, and the other. Whatever you're dealing with, you're going to charge your cells with it.
Yeah.
So it's not just the quality of water. It's the quality of thought. It's the quality of care. It's about what you really are focused on.
Yeah.
Now, when we are realizing that those of us who are the branch that got thrown across the water, and we're taking root, but we're taking root now in the soils of absolute truth. Our identity is not by virtue of our color or our hue.
Yeah.
It's by virtue of being.
Yeah.
Intelligences of existence that have come to the earth, and we should have the opportunity to fully leave the earth and not be buried in the earth.
Yeah.
You understand? So the gold, the silver, the whatever, we have it in us already. We're activating with the thought, with the care, with the love, with the cleansing, the purification, the renewal, the rebirth, the commitments. I made a commitment at 20. I had a social movements class. It was an evening class. It was a Wednesday night. And the professor was very distinguished European. I think he was University of Florida alumni also. And in the class, it's a social movements class. So this is what he does. He studies social movements all over the world. And so the first thing he does is, first day of class, he asks you, what do you want in your life? And so, of course, I want to be the progression of my lineages, the progression of my people. He plays this reel-to-reel tape of all of the voices of the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, right? So it was Angela Davis, it was Adam Clayton Powell, it was Dr. King, it was Malcolm X, it was Martin, it was all of them. I was so full when I left that class.
Yeah, I can imagine.
When I got in the car and got to the light to go home, everything in me welled up. Let me live to make a difference in this world, or let me not live at all.
Yeah.
What are we committing to? See, we get what we ask for, but we are not asking to walk in the light of the truth of all that we are as these points of the presence of God.
Yeah.
You can be a millionaire, but your millions will be here. You can have the finest and nicest things. They will not regenerate your body, your heart, your mind, or your spirit.
Mm.
You could have had all the fine men and all the fine women and have a bunch of children that you left. And nobody is going to be there when you die.
Mm.
where we are now requires the commitment to the truth of who we are, remembering whose we are. The prodigal children returning home to the house of God, the mind of God. Right? That activation of the pineal gland. You can't do it. People call me and say, well, sister, how do I decalcify my pineal gland? I say, you got to clean your whole body, heart, mind, and your spirit. You understand? The body is being cleared and purified so that you can consecrate it by virtue of the power of your word and your intent. And you're praying without ceasing. And you're committing and recommitting and committing and recommitting so that your body has become the temple for the re-enthronement of the true spirit of the living God, Goddess. That's what liberation looks like.
Indeed. Share some of your spiritual practices.
Doing just what I'm saying. You know, the ingestion of the herbal teas, the fruits and vegetation, just, you know, the order of the day.
Yeah.
You know, the praying before you even get up. You don't get up and pray. Pray before you even, when you wake up, start praying. I was praying all night. Can't sleep, pray all night. I'm just saying, ask, begin that communication. And basically, you know, because I'm centered, every day is a different day. The one things that I am definitely about is facilitating the cleansing.
Yeah.
You know, and so our clay water is on first thing. You know, our coming to a point and place where we care to be in the mind of who we are. I've got this piece called The Cosmic I Am. That cosmic I Am is a reprogram towards conscious immortality.
Yeah.
It's my voice, my teacher's writing. Everybody that starts my protocols get that. So we play that, and we're doing our enemas, and, you know, and I do the ritual with lighting my candles. The candles are just the prayers consistently burning.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we do our clearing, our cleansing, our sweeping. I got cats, feed the cats. But all of it is part of the practice of what it is to acknowledge life.
Yeah.
You know, and be in it. I try not to answer my phone before I've done my protocols.
Yeah.
My protocols. And I'm getting people started on the protocols. My red clay is coming on first before I even get out of my space.
Yeah.
Right? That red clay is coming from deep within the earth. It is so magnetic. And it is literally the symbol for all of the blood that has been spilled upon this planet.
Mm.
And I have been dealing with this red clay, and I'm not talking about the surface dirt of Georgia or
Yeah,
West
for sure.
Africa. It's coming from deep within the earth on the other side of Sedona. You see them big red mountains and stuff. This is coming from deep within the earth. But that clay is ritual. It's been ritual for me for 43 years.
Gotcha.
Now, the Hebraic meaning of Adama is red earth. So when we talk about everything happens for a reason,
yeah,
that's part of the reason is that we call things into our lives.
Gotcha.
But the benefit of what I've seen as a result of ingesting the clay is it helps to negate, it helps to pull, but it also helps to ground us.
Okay.
It helps to harmonize us with the earth. So a lot of people, they pay attention and they're reading all of this astrology, all of we're dealing with all of the sciences. That's all well and good.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any of that, you're still in harmony.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any of it, but to be in harmony with the earth.
Yeah.
People start the cleansing and they get spacey. They don't have the earth.
Yeah. Got to be grounded.
It's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? You need to go eat something. Yep, but the clay helps the ground and just are coming to a point where the consistency over time.
Yeah.
You know, so people will ask, well, why are you still doing enemas if you've been strict vegetarian for 46 years and you haven't done potatoes and rice and beans and stuff in over 20 years. And why do you still do that? I say, because I'm still brushing my teeth. I'm still swabbing my ears, still blowing my nose, still spitting up, and still bathing.
Yeah.
The body is cleansing.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the longer you go, the deeper the cleanse. The longer you go, the deeper the cleanse. So this is not a 30-day, 40-day, 90-day. No. Y'all been foolish for quite a while here. So no, when do you stop? No, don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Don't stop. Why? Because I've seen people who were strict vegetarian, raw foodists and whatnot, and they move into a moment of crazy. And that moment, when we're dealing with moments,
Yep.
that crazy moment can undo
Everything.
Right. So you can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get called, or when you create the tragic date with fate, when your number is up, no, you want that body to have been cleared, cleansed, purified, renewed, rebirthed, regenerated, reduced, so you can get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, because people don't teach us. They didn't teach us how to live, and they don't teach us how to leave.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're relearning.
Got you. Last question. And I know the audience wants to hear this. If you had a wand that could heal people in any way you choose, how would you heal our people?
I have wands. I've got many wands. You will no longer bring the flesh of dead animals, the aborted fetuses of chickens, the mucus and cows, the pus and mucus of cows, artificial colors, artificial flavors, nitrates, nitrites, cigarettes, alcohol, any of this into your body temple from this day forward. And you will clear, cleanse, purify, renew, and call 678-760-9299 for life support.
There you go. I want to thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bob.
This has been a joy. And tell the people where they can listen to your radio station, find you on the internet, that sort of thing, before we get out of here.
I'm on every Thursday night, 89.3 FM for those who are in the Atlanta area or anywhere near the 100,000 watts that we have access to. But it's www.wrfg.org every Thursday night, midnight to 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There are archives so that if you're not listening real time, you are able to go on the site, click on archives. It'll give you a download of Mixcloud, and you can just put in the meaning of the inner circle.
Gotcha.
I also am airing on www.bbsradio.com/Adama Speaks, and that airs the same time, but they have a lot of archives of my online content. Otherwise, everything is Adama Speaks. YouTube, Adama Speaks. Instagram, The Real Adama Speaks. Spotify, Adama Speaks. You could just Google Adama Speaks. Otherwise, speak to me directly. 678-760-9299. What I realize is that you can't talk to Savior right now. You can't talk to Lila right now. You can't talk to many of these ones, but you can talk to me.
Gotcha. I think that's the perfect way to end it. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to us today. I hope that this resonates with your spirit, your heart, and your mind, and your soul. Take this information, do something great with it. Let it transform your life. Let it be the initiation, the spark that you needed to take the action that you need to become the person that you need to become. Become the spirit that you need to become. And until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.